Hey friends, so this is the second time I've recorded this because I tried recording it about an hour ago and then my computer just crashed for no reason, so we're gonna try it again for a second time. Hi! Today's video we're gonna be photoshopping some more palettes. I got some suggestions from y'all on Twitter and on YouTube. I got a lot of suggestions, I'll tell you, I got so many ideas. We're gonna do 6 today. We're gonna do 6 relatively recent ones. We have a couple that are a little bit older, but I wanted to keep it for the most part recent releases, just so that they were fresh in everybody's minds. So I pulled them into Photoshop, I grabbed some inspirations, and I know I talked about several of them in my anti-haul earlier this week, so I'm sure you guys know which ones are coming, some of them. But I did one of these videos last month during Vlogmas, and I wanted to keep doing it, so we're just gonna keep at it. If you are new and this is the first time you're seeing me, hi, hello, my name is Abby. Subscribe, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and if you like me and you want to see more of me coming up.
Okay.
All right, so the first one we started with was this horrendous Sims and Mac palette, and I talked about it at length on Monday, so I won't go too much into it. The palette is boring. They basically outdid Colourpop with the boring, pointless collaborations, and I wanted to make something that was actually Sims themed because this was a joke of a palette. So I grabbed a bunch of images and screenshots from The Sims so I could have things to work with and some colors to grab from. So obviously we had to have a plum bob green. Obviously. The plum bob green ends up being a shimmery shade, but I'm kind of playing around with different shades a lot here in the beginning. I also spent a little bit of time thinking that red might make sense. It doesn't end up staying that way, but this color that I'm working on right now is an Olive Spectre themed color. Olive Spectre, she is an icon, as Juno Birch would say. And so I grabbed some of the hair colors, and there's this weird, terrible blonde shade that never looks good in people's hair, but I feel like it's a fun eyeshadow shade. So I gave like a gold kind of color that's a shimmery gold that I think would go really well with stuff. So I'm moving stuff around, and this light blue shade that is in the center right now is inspired by the Create a Sim window, so the background when you're actually like making your sim. So we're almost there. So I'm messing around a little bit with the green shade. I wanted to have like a grassy green that could go with the shimmery plum bob, but the grassy green's more of a matte. So I have a matte blue, a matte green, a shimmery blue, shimmery green. And then this brown one right in the middle on the bottom, I had it as like a red kind of Katrina Caliente color, but I feel like it didn't quite go, so I made it more of a neutral brown. So this one is just kind of like a good mid-tone, a little bit leaning darker neutral brown that could go with really anything in the palette. And here we have the names. We have the top left, which is Simlish, which is the language in the game. Tragic Clown, Bonehilda. We have Bonehilda, which is a pure white. Bonehilda is an icon as well. She is the maid. Sul is Simlish for hello. Motherlode is the cheat code that you use to get a bunch of money, like 50,000 simoleons. Plum Bob is the name of the little jewel that goes on top of their head. Dag Dag is goodbye in Simlish. Spectre for Olive Spectre is a character within the Sims lore, and she wears a lot of gray. She has gray hair, and all of her kind of things in her house are very gray toned. So I wanted to give her like a shimmery kind of metallic-y gray. I feel like that would look really cool, like a charcoal pewter type color. Pancakes for the Pancakes family, for Eliza and Bob Pancakes, because they're boring, and this is relatively a boring brown shade. And then for the Goth shade, for the Goth family, I had a red, but the red didn't make sense within the larger scheme of the color story. Black is the Goths family, like, thing, you know? So I have a dark, like a kind of shimmery, satiny black with like a reddish shift. So there is red in there, but it's not like a red in your face kind of color. Some shades named after iconic families in the lore, some of the language, and some of the characters and some of the things. So I was really happy with this. I feel like it's a stark difference from what they did, which is literally the saddest thing ever. Next we have the Colourpop Wine and Only palette, and this one we talked about again on Tuesday, and I feel like I killed it with this one, honestly, because the palette they had was really boring. So I started out with, I have Vinter here. I'm making it darker. This one does end up changing a little bit later, but with Mull It Over, I also have it a little bit darker as well. I spent a lot of time on this one. With Blanc here, I wanted to make a more of an actual champagne shade, like a sparkling white wine kind of color, because the color story that they went with is just all kind of one-ish shade of wine. And it wasn't even like, it was just a kind of mauvey berry thing that Colourpop has put out so many times. For Sip Sip, I felt like we were missing greens in this palette because green grapes, wine, vines, there's green as part of wine in general. So I literally searched a green grape image and used that as my color sample to make this shade a green grape color. And it's like a shimmery kind of green. It's not exactly the same as Plum Bob. I realized I used a lot of green in some of these. And I also wanted to use some colors from wine bottles because I feel like those also have really beautiful, like rich colors in there as well. So for Grapeful, which is their kind of darker shimmer shade, I made this one more of an olivey tone, which is a similar to like a wine bottle, because a lot of wine bottles have this kind of greenish brownish coloring. So I wanted to bring that in there as well to have a little bit more green as well. So the Sip Sip color wasn't the only green. I needed to find a dark red. So I got some Cab Sav, I got some Merlot, you know. So Mull It Over, I believe I made a dark red. Yes, so this one I made more of a red tone, a dark red. And then Vinter here on the bottom, I made it more of a purple kind of tone, a little bit cooler. So Mull It Over is warmer, Vinter is cooler. For winter, hello, a local vintner. We don't have any crab apple colors though. No fruit wine in this wine and only palette, except grapes. More wine bottles. Yes, I grabbed lots of wine bottle swatches just to kind of play around. I made Casta Chateau. I hate that name so much. I made this one more kind of purpley toned to kind of go with Vinter. Little more of that purpley kind of vibe, because Casta Chateau and Mon Chéri were like way too similar, I feel like. So I wanted to just make it a little bit different. And then the last one I do end up working with is Mon Chéri. I kept Play to Wine the same because it's like a kind of rosé color, you know, like rosé is a thing. So for Mon Chéri on the bottom center, I did another one that was kind of inspired by wine bottles. So this one I made a little bit more brown, a little more like amber kind of, not amber, but you know, like the browner wine bottles. I have the greener wine bottle and the browner wine bottle. My little outline was a little wonky, but you know, from far away it looks fine. And I think I did a really good job. I think I killed it. Like, it looked really bad before, and it looked like there would maybe be 2 looks that you'd be able to get. And this new version, there's so much variety. So much variety. What?
You took my idea.
Do you want to see it?
I saw it. I popped up on May too.
What?
I was standing behind you. You weren't noticing. I literally just did this for like 30 seconds, and then I was just like,
Isn't that good?
that's my idea. Yeah, you did a good job.
Thanks. You're the wine expert. Next, we have the My Chemical Romance and Hip Dot palette. And this one, I actually, like, didn't dislike that much. I feel like when this palette came out, I was interested in getting it because the color story was kind of different. I feel like it matched the theme, it matched MCR, but unfortunately the company handled the actual release of it very poorly. I feel like they weren't nearly prepared, even though I feel like they should have been prepared because it's My Chemical Romance. But you know, it didn't go off well as far as like the actual release and marketing of everything. But I didn't dislike this palette. It just wasn't exactly what I would want. So I wanted to do one where I didn't really change it that much, but just enough to make it where I would have been like, yes, I want to work really hard to buy this, because when I saw how messed up it was trying to get it, I was just like, okay, I'm backing out. I don't really care that much. Okay, like, you guys can fight over it. So I adjusted the reds a lot. And with this red on the left here, I ended up grabbing one of the other shades to grab the shimmer texture. But I worked a little bit with Urban Decay's Gash, which is like a kind of cult classic shadow from Urban Decay, that I distinctly remember reading that was the shade that Gerard Way wore. And so I made this one very similar to Gash. It's one of like it's just such a good color. It's such a fun color. It's like a satiny, shimmery kind of red. And then I made this red here on the top a lot brighter. I just wanted the reds to be more different than what they were initially. I didn't want two matte reds, you know, grabbing some My Chemical Romance inspiration. This next one, I believe, what did I mess with next? I moved some things around, but because I thought there really wasn't a point in having two browns in the palette, I grabbed another one of the shimmery textures and made this kind of dark blackened red because I wanted there to be more reds in the palette. Like I just wanted there to be more reds. And then this brown, I made it more neutral tone. I got rid of the warmth because I feel like besides the reds, everything else was kind of cool or neutral toned. I made the blacker. I made them a bit more saturated, a bit darker. I made the blue slightly less blue because I wanted it to be a little bit more gray, a little bit more kind of like concrete kind of vibes going. I feel like the blue was the one shade that kind of stuck out before. I made this gray darker. It's still different from the blue, but I made the gray darker. I kept the silver in the bottom right and then the white the same, but everything else I adjusted. And I think the difference between two of them is just enough to where I would have been like working to get the release if it looked like what I ended up making. But the initial release, it didn't have the kind of love behind it the way that it looked. I don't know. It wasn't exactly what I wanted. And I know that's like a selfish thing, but you know. Next we have the Sailor Moon palette. And this one cut off a little bit at the end, so I'll just have photos up at the end. But this palette from Colourpop several months ago was just absolutely trashed. People hated it because it was so boring and not reminiscent of Sailor Moon in the slightest. So I had to add a blue because literally in the images there was blue in her outfit. I had to make the yellow more yellow. I added a hot pink because there wasn't any like pink and it was just all kind of like peachy-ish. And then the shade next to the blue, between the blue and the pink, I made that one red after her bow because literally they have her wearing her red, white, and blue outfit and they didn't have red or blue in the palette. Like, come on, Colourpop. You have the capacity to do that. I didn't mess with the shimmers for the most part, except this one on the far left. I made it a little bit more of like a greeny gold saturated type shade because I feel like it wasn't that different from the one next to it to make it useful in the palette so much. So I just made it a little bit darker, a little more saturated, and I feel like it changed it up enough. And then the shades on the top, I grabbed some purples because I feel like purple works in this palette. I have a light purple and then a dark purple that I end up with, which I will have the images on the screen now that you can see. But I have a lighter purple and a darker purple because I feel like those worked really well with the pink, with the blue. Even like yellow and purple is kind of a fun combination. And then instead of having a mid-tone brown as a transition shade, I kept a mauve in there because, again, I feel like the mauve would work well with the pink, work well with the blue, would work well with the shimmers, work well just as an all-over shade, and you can darken it up with the purple or the blue or even the red. I like a good mauve as a transition shade. I feel like mid-tone browns are such a cop-out sometimes as like a transition shade when, you know, like, I don't know, sometimes I want a mauve. Next. Ooh, this was the BH and Garnet palette. This palette is so bad. It's so bad. I didn't do the front cover because I didn't necessarily have the time or the inspiration to do the front cover. But, so I grabbed some swatches of the colors that were already in the palette because the colors themselves were not terrible. But just like the execution of the palette was so sad and not fun in the slightest. And the Garnet shade in here wasn't even Garnet. It was just pink. So I kept the pink and the red in there, but then, because I think the one thing that this palette was missing was the actual, like, gemstone inspiration behind it. I'm grabbing the charcoal kind of black in there because this was in there, and I feel like it was a good deepening shade. It was a good contrast to the other ones that were kind of neutral. And then I actually looked up, I did not realize this, but there are different kinds of garnets. They're not all that one shade of like crimson, kind of pinky red. Like there are different kind of forms of garnet. Like all of those are garnets. So I wanted to bring different colors in there, different kinds of garnets. Because dang it, there's different kinds. And I actually grabbed an image of a garnet from Google because I feel like that would be a fun thing to do. I tend to not like things that are different shapes in a palette. I want it to be uniform. But like this is the one time where I feel like that would make sense because the whole palette is themed around like gemstones. I kept the white shimmery in there as well. My version of the white shimmer would be like a topper shade that's kind of glittery, not necessarily like a frosty white, if you know what I mean. But this greeny shade is a garnet. This kind of browny shade is kind of within that family as well. And then there's like a lighter toned garnet that I found in this specific post, a topazolite, which is a garnet, I guess. And I feel like that this was a fun thing to add to it. I never use Pinterest, but I found it on Pinterest and I was like, that works. So I made like a shade that is like this topazolite in the bottom, which is kind of a goldy pinky shift. So I made one. I made a goldy pinky shift. And then I went into my gradient tool in Photoshop and just fucked with it. Grab some pink, grab some gold, messed around with the tones, and I think it ended up being kind of fun. Like, there wasn't nearly enough shimmer in the palette before. I feel like adding in a shimmery actual garnet shade is kind of a given. And then we have the shimmery white, the shimmery black, and then this kind of duochrome color that I think complements it quite well. Maybe when I inevitably do another one of those BH Birthstone palettes, I will definitely do it in May because hot damn, that is my birthday month. I might actually redesign the front of it, but I didn't feel like it with this one. And last but not least, we have the Melt Beetlejuice palette. One of the small pet peeves I had about this palette was the way it was laid out, with completely changing up the way the eyeshadows look, having it be 2 rows of 4. I took the colors that already existed and added them to these other swatches and adjusted them just slightly, like just a little bit. I think I ended up making this kind of mid-tone yellow darker. And with this one, because Beetlejuice wears black and white, there needed to be black and white in this palette, you know? There just needed to be black and white. And so I took this green, this shimmery kind of teal that they had in there, and just kind of copied and pasted portions of it and put it in this second shade. I used the Gemini as my like template for where, like, what the shape of the shadows were, and I just adjusted the colors based on that. And so this is me just piecing together all of the swatches. I think I did a decent job. Hey, hire me, brands, please. Thank you. But now you guys can see how easy it is just to like literally manipulate images of, and these don't even look that good. Like, they look fine, but they don't look great. I spent like 2 hours on this. And then I put a background because I wanted to have an actual background and get rid of the other stuff in the background. So this side's gonna be the purple side, but there also needed to be a black. So I made a black eyeshadow that could use to deepen up anything, and also Beetlejuice. I made this purple, the same as Lost Souls, because I feel like the purple tones in here were nice, but there were too many repeat shades. Like, Recently Deceased and Little Accident were way too similar. So I made the Lost Souls shade a little bit darker, just to add a little bit of difference. And then this shade, I made a very vibrant purple. I think it ends up looking very cool. Yeah, look at that. It's like this fun magenta purple. Ooh, love it. I feel like this looks way more Beetlejuicy, but I'm just adjusting the tones here and there of some of the shades. This green one, I wanted to make it a little more green, a little less teal, but I feel like this looks more Beetlejuice to me. Am I the expert on Beetlejuice? No. Do I pretend to be the expert on Beetlejuice? Also no. But this gets me more excited, you know? It also screams a little bit of like All Real Monsters with the black and white. Anybody else remember that show? I love this. I feel like this is really fun. Like, I would have bought this, probably. Like, the palette that they came out with was just too repetitive. Like, the purples were way too similar. The greens were too similar. Like, no, we want variety. Okay? Oh yeah, this is me making that green just slightly darker. There we go. There we go. Look at that. And we have the difference between the two. I think this one does scream more Beetlejuice. I feel like Melt was almost there with this release. Almost. Melt and Hip Dot were almost there for those collabs. Just not exactly what I wanted. Yeah, those are all the 6 palettes that I decided to redo for this video. I had fun with it. I'm gonna keep doing these. Definitely if there are ones, I mean, I'm sure it'll be a lot of similar palettes that I end up anti-hauling. Don't necessarily feel like you need to tag me at everything on Trend Mood, because trust me, somebody else already has. So many people tagged the friggin' Animal Crossing palette from Colourpop. Those quads are just like fine. I don't have like a personal connection to Animal Crossing. I did have a handful of people ask me to do the new Tartelette Juicy palette. I have nothing to work with there. It's big and pointless and stupid, and the variety is non-existent, so I didn't know what I could do with that palette, because I wouldn't want a palette that big. Hence why I didn't do it. So, so for today's song of the day, let's see, what have I been listening to? Ooh, let's have it be a My Chemical Romance song. Let's have it be Helena. Because obviously, I would name that shimmery, kind of satiny red that's on the left, I would name that one. Helena by My Chemical Romance is your song of the day, so definitely go check it out. If you want to see the previous one of these that I did, I will leave a link to the one I did last month for Vlogmas in the description down below. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if you are new here and would like to see more of me, please subscribe. We just hit 60K last month. Holy crap. And then if you like this video, please give it a like. Share it with your friends. Hopefully I can inspire some of you to play around with Photoshop, because it's fun, honestly. Like, it gets my creative juices flowing, even if sometimes my Adobe software just decides to take a shit on itself and just crash in the middle of me recording. Thanks, Adobe. No thanks. Hope y'all are having a good weekend. I hope you're staying safe, staying healthy, staying home. Wash your hands, wear your mask, social distance, pay attention to the news, and I will see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye!